Hello, my friends. This is Dr. M to continue our journey with intermediate microeconomics, and today we want to finish Elchin and Allen theorem presentation. So let me talk about the question that was posed in front of you, and I left you in such an abrupt way without an answer. So where would you expect people to drive nicer cars, in Minnesota or South Carolina, and why? I hope you had a chance to think about this and reflect. One way to think about this question would be in this way. Because it is known fact that the weather conditions in state of Minnesota are much more severe on cars than in South Carolina, you can think about the weather conditions with its severity as fixed cost that is added to these transportation options. So this fixed cost is going to erode or destroy the car, or depreciate the cars much faster in Minnesota than in South Carolina. So you would expect that people will drive nicer or newer car in Minnesota than in South Carolina for that reason, because this fixed cost is going to be changing the relative price of quality, and thus you may find that there are fewer cars that people own in the state of Minnesota, but when they do own cars, it would be on average a nicer car than in the state of South Carolina. Let me throw in one more example that is very relevant. Every time Federal Aviation Agency comes up with new regulations that makes flying more expensive in terms of staying in lines, long lines to go through security checks, in terms of what you can bring with you on the plane, and so forth. There are numerous of different regulations. You will find that people will tend to demand high quality function when they board the plane, such as a first class ticket versus economy ticket during the routes that are going to be much longer. So in this case, distance can be viewed as a transportation charge. So the longer you have to fly, the more it will apply the pressure on the relative quality pricing. So the higher function, high quality function, will cost less in relative terms with a low quality function. On the other hand, when there is a shorter distance to fly, people would have less pressure applied to the price in relative terms of quality, and thus they will care less which option they will take, first class, business class, or economy. So the airlines should be aware of Elchin and Allen theorem in this case as they market their tickets accordingly. So let me now run a conclusion. I hope that you have received a lot of different applications, and now you are more comfortable when it comes to application of Elchin and Allen theorem. So shipping people to Apples does not change anything. In fact, the application of Elchin and Allen theorem still apply. I want to draw your attention that fixed cost in its own right, in its own independent, exclusive application, changes everything at the marketplace. That's what makes it so fascinating. That you haven't done anything else, you just add fixed cost and it changes our behavioral choices in such a way that is fascinating. In many states in the United States and actually in other countries, there is a strong push towards imposing increased tax on product of sin, such as alcohol and cigarettes, so-called product of sin. So when you're going to raise taxes on cigarettes, you can treat this tax as the fixed cost, and you can predict that people will smoke less because adding tax will increase the price, and according to the first law of demand, people will smoke less. But when they do smoke, they will tend to gravitate to high quality cigarettes. So you see that applications can be really, really applied in a variety of ways. The next thing what I would like to do is to discuss misapplication of Alchin and Allen theorem, because ultimately every theory at some point is going to be wrong. There is not such a theory in its existence that will work 100% of the time. And even the law of gravity at some point does not work, and we don't know why. So let me talk about a few items that are important to consider before we talk about misapplication of Alchin and Allen theorem. Number one, when you add transportation charge or fixed cost to a high quality function and low quality function, in essence, you can change how people relate to their work and to the choice of leisure. And let me elaborate. When people buy bigger screen television, which is the higher quality function than a smaller screen television, and thus it will demand more viewership time, how much time they spend watching television, this will shift their choice between work and leisure. Another example. Once somebody is going to purchase recreational vehicle or RV for camping or for driving long distances, this type of consumption will tend to move people away from choosing the same mix of work and leisure as they had prior to the purchase. So when people buy high quality function because the relative price has gone down, they tend to devote more of themselves in terms of time and in terms of resources to consume this high quality function. And that's what brings the difference in the mix of work versus leisure. Now let's go to misapplication of Alchin and Allen theorem. It is possible that you can overwhelm the higher quality good with a transportation charge that could be enormous. For example, one of the famous ballet dancer was Baryshnikov, and you can Google him. You can find him dancing in the theaters where people were willing to pay lots of money to see him dance. It is spectacular. It is beautiful. So I even recommend you to enrich your own experience by finding him doing different performances. So you have this famous dancer, and let's suppose that you add fixed cost to his show of dance. And the fixed cost in this case, you can think about Dr. M, that's me, will join the dance on the stage with this famous dancer. Clearly, this will destroy the quality of performance because my dancing skills, how should I put it, in relative terms are not up to par, not even close. Although I understand that some of my students may enjoy seeing me dancing on the stage, the quality will not be there, guaranteed. So me joining the stage, on the stage, this famous ballet dancer will destroy the quality, and that's misapplication of Allen and Elchin theorem. I want you to keep in mind that fixed costs can be highly productive because they either demand more work and less leisure or vice versa, depending upon what product you see in light of the marketplace purchasing. Let me give you another example of misapplication of Elchin and Allen theorem before we finish this video presentation. If I were to ask this question, where would you have a nicer meal or higher quality meal? At home or at the restaurant? That's an interesting question. And that demands several different assumptions. Will you eat high quality meal at the restaurant or at home? Even if you make transportation charge fixed, the same amount, let's say it takes for you to go from your work to the restaurant that is near your home the same distance. So even if you simplify the problem, can you really answer adequately to that question? The way to think about this question would be the following. I propose that you think about going to the restaurant as a package and going home as a package. There are different reasons why people go to the restaurant versus they go eat at home. They could have the same type of meal, whether it's delivered home, but unless and until you view in a separate way as a separate packages that restaurant provides versus home, those two options strictly not compatible. And here's why. People go to the restaurant and they pay a premium for the meal in part that includes atmosphere. Unless and until you can create the same atmosphere that is available at the restaurant and at home, you cannot compare those two options. Number two, the package also includes within this premium a service of the waiter. Unless and until you have the similar service available at home, those two options cannot be compared, and thus Elchin and Allen theorem may well fail to explain and predict where people will eat a high quality meal at the restaurant or at home. Again, in this case, it will pay some dividends if you would separate those two options into a package that provides apparently different services. And unless and until you make those packages similar in scope and variety of things that people pay for, you will run into misapplication of Elchin and Allen theorem. And at that point, I want to stop this video and wish you a very healthy day.